All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, I want to thank everybody for being here today. I think we have about 260 people RSVP'd, and it appears that people are still wandering in. So thank you, everybody. I'm thrilled to have Raul Porto with us today from Porto's Bakery, and I see many people eating and enjoying the food from Porto's, and we've all experienced Porto's near and dear to our hearts, and we've all experienced this incredible movement that is Porto's, and the largest Cuban Hispanic family-owned bakery in the United States. So welcome, Raul, representing your whole family. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephen Gordon. I'm founding chairman, CEO of Genesis Bank. Banks are banks, but I think we're pretty unique in that while we may be a commercial bank, a new commercial bank headquartered here in Orange County, focused on Orange County, LA County, Riverside, and San Bernardino County, what makes us uniquely different, and I've done this a few times in my career with my team, is that out of nearly 5,000 banks that exist here in the United States, there are only 144 of us that are actually designated as minority depository institutions. Of the 144, there are only 2 of us in the entire country that are designated as diverse, multiracial minority depository institutions. And we have partnerships. For example, today we have, and I welcome and I'm excited to have you here, the Asian Business Association of Orange County, the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Black Chamber of Orange County, and then we also have a partnership with the TGR Foundation, or the Tiger Woods Foundation. And we aim to be extraordinarily impactful and really make a difference in our majority minority communities. And if you consider the diversity that exists in our communities, through our 4 Southern California counties that are the second largest demographic in the entire United States, we range anywhere between 60 and 75% majority minority population. So where this country is at this point and where we're going and the socioeconomic changes that have evolved, they're not going away, and we're here to really make a difference and have an impact in our communities. I'd like to also thank our lead sponsor. I'd like to express gratitude for Roger Koch of Ryomac. Roger, where are you? Roger is the former CFO of In-N-Out Burger, where he spent 35 years, and he now serves as a restaurant consultant. We appreciate your support, and I know you have a couple of things to say.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here mainly for this man up front. I do have a consulting firm now, RYMK Consulting. I do kind of general business consulting for family-owned businesses. I believe in them. I think they're kind of the backbone of America, and I just love supporting them. I'm here for this man here and his business. I got to know him really well about 5 years. Terrific person, terrific family, and what a story on Porto. So I think you're going to enjoy that today, and just glad to meet everybody here and glad to be a sponsor.
Thank you. I'd also like to recognize and thank United States Congressman Lou Correa for joining us, and also to thank Charles Kim, who's here representing the State Senator David Min here today. Thank you. And I'd like to also thank and recognize Sonny Park, Mayor of Buena Park, for joining us today. Sonny, where are you? Thank you. And being a Tiger, born in 1962, I'd like to say Happy Lunar New Year, Year of the Tiger. And February is also Black History Month. So Raul, we did business together back at Opus Bank, and now here we are, years forward. And I think in order to really understand Porto's and the family and the vision and what Porto's is today, I think we need to go backwards. I think we need to go all the way back to Cuba and hear the story of the family and the beginnings of what is now Porto's Bakery.
So welcome. It's great to see you guys. Porto started. So we're pretty much, very similar to a lot of stories. I'm sure there's a few of them here today, if not more than that, where, we came to this country as immigrants and, we're able to find something that we did and did it well. Back in the 1970s, when you wanted to leave the country, you had to ask for permission to leave the country. And my grandmother petitioned for us to come to the United States. And basically what happened is when you go to the government agency and you say, okay, we want to leave the country, we're asking petition in the United States, immediately both family members, my parents, both my dad and my mother, were immediately fired from their jobs. My dad worked for the government picking fruits and whatever for 4 years while we got permission to come to the United States. In those 4 years, my mother basically didn't have a job either, and she studied to be a home ed teacher, so she started making cakes out of the house. Now, realize that in Cuba, it's illegal to be an entrepreneur. So not only was she an entrepreneur, but she was doing everything that by law you couldn't do. She could have ended up in jail. I mean, she was risking a lot. So what she did was she would make cakes out of the house and sell them to friends and things. Now in Cuba, you can't just go to a supermarket or anything and buy your ingredients. You can't buy milk and whatever. So everything was bartered. So she would sell a cake to a farmer. And I remember this story vividly. My mother sold a wedding cake to a farmer in exchange for a few hundred pounds of tomatoes. And then we got those tomatoes home, they didn't know what to do with them. And they're like, now what are we gonna do? So they made ketchup with them, of all things. To this day, I love ketchup. And I don't know how many bottles, to me it seemed like millions. It was probably 100 or 200 bottles. But at that time, everything was so scared that it seemed like millions. And I happen to have a room that was bigger than my sister's. So they lined them up all in my room. So every night I go to bed and wake up looking at ketchup bottles. And they were all different bottles too. I mean, anything they could get their hands on. So my mother started making cakes out of that. And, it started going really well. Then 4 years later, we get a permission to come to the United States. We fly into Miami, and they, kind of like in Ellis Island in Miami, they had it's right it's near the airport, and it was like a huge building where they process all the Cubans coming in. In the 1970s, there was quite a few of them coming in on a weekly or monthly basis. So they processed us. They basically, all the clothes we were wearing, they basically, we just threw it in the trash. I mean, people say, we came with the clothes in our back. Oh, actually, we came with less than that because all that clothes just got thrown in the trash. And then I remember we had to take a shower, a huge shower, and I was 10 years old. That was kind of a traumatic experience for me. And we took a shower, they gave us new clothes, and then we went off they knew we were coming to California, so they gave us, Catholic church or somebody gave us $50. And all the clothes was secondhand clothing. And, we didn't know any better, actually, we thought they were great. It's like, wow, we're in the United States. And we thought it was great. And we came to California, and my mom says the story that, for those 4 years, all she could dream about was coming to the United States. And that's all she could think about. And then all of a sudden she says that we're catching the flight now to California, which is our final destination. And we're in the plane, and she's thinking to myself, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I've been making cakes out of the house, and I don't speak English, I can't teach, I can't do any of those things. And so says she's really scared. We land at the airport, we go to my grandmother's house, and friends are coming over to wish us good luck and say hello and whatever. And one of the ladies at that night told my mother, I'm so glad you're in town because nobody makes a cake like you. And my daughter's getting married in 2 months. And my mom says that a big smile came out of her face and said, okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna continue selling cakes here. Should be a little easier. And that's how we started. And so we started making cakes out of the house.
So where's the house?
We lived in LA, in Silver Lake, the Silver Lake area. And it was a small duplex. And we lived, the back one. It was a 2-bedroom. And, we started making cakes, and most of the people were actually at the beginning were Cubans that knew of us or a friend, raved about us and told us, but it was really slow at the beginning. We were just making, she was making a couple of cakes. My dad used to really tell her, hey, we got to do something else. This isn't working. A few years later, little did he know, he ended up working for her, right? So, but at that time, he kept pressuring her. One of the interesting things that women in those times were not seen as bakers or cake decorators. It was mostly a male-driven job. So she tried her heart out to get a job at a local bakery, but nobody would hire her. So she would come back and my dad would tell her, you're not trying hard enough, you gotta try. It's like, I'm trying, nobody's gonna hire me. And
how many of you are living in the house?
So
What was
there's-
that experience all
okay.
about?
So I have two sisters and my mom and dad, so there was 5 of us living in the house. For us, it was great. We came to a new house. My mom tells a story that was probably the happiest time of her life because we had just gone to a new country. Somebody gave us one of those above ground pools, little ones, and all of us would be in there. My cousins would come in. My mom, she's a great cook, was a great cook. So she would make all sorts of stuff for the kids. It was awesome. We were eating things that we all take for granted. Until I came to this country, I never had, hundreds of things that we take for granted. Coca-Cola, ham, cheese, anything, croissant, so just basic. So for us, it was like being in heaven. We made it. This is it. And my mom probably felt that way. And at the same time, the kids, we were tasting it every day.
So you're all living in the house together. You're going to school as a kid.
Yes, we immediately started going to school.
Your mom is, who's getting the eggs, the butter, the sugar?
So that's a funny story. So she started making cakes out of the house. It was very difficult because you have no refrigeration or anything like that. So that means that the cakes, to make a cake is a very long process because you have to make the cake, cool it down, which could take hours. Then after you cool it down, you put the icing, the filling, you stack the cake, you decorate it. It could take 5 or 6 hours, or longer than that. And so my mom most of the cakes were for Saturdays. And I've been telling you, we were talking about this, that probably after we got here in 1970, the first 2 years, she was just doing a few cakes. But I would say by the 3rd year, she was doing quite a few cakes, more than you would imagine. And she had to make them starting on Friday night. She would start at 7 o'clock and work through the whole night. So for the last 2 or 3 years of her life, she never slept on a Friday night. She would just get them. And then she wanted to be a really good mom. So she would finish with all their cakes by 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we were young kids, 10, 12, 13. And so instead of saying, okay, guys, I'm going to bed, she would stay with us. If we were going to a friend's house for an event, she would go with us. She'd probably fall asleep on the way back every time, but she would make a great effort. So, it took a tremendous amount of effort.
And there's one oven in the house?
Oh yeah, just a home oven. We're not talking about a Viking stove right now.
And how are you getting, you're not making cakes if you don't have someone buying cakes. So how is the demand for the cakes occurring? Who's buying them?
At the beginning, it was mostly Cubans just telling each other word of mouth. And then, cakes is, you can market you can do better than a restaurant because at a cake, somebody orders a cake, somebody that, let's say a Cuban person, then my mom would order a cake, bring it to, I remember we used to deliver a lot of cakes to Children's Hospital in LA.
How'd you deliver them?
I had a station wagon, in the back of a station wagon, and she would park, and sometimes I'd run out, and so we wouldn't have to pay for the parking or something. I would run out, just drop it off, and come back. It was really humble and there wasn't, people asked me, what marketing plan did you have? We had no marketing plan, no business plan. No idea. All of us had no idea what we were doing in business. You have to realize we came from a communist country where there was no banking system. And we take all these things for granted, but it really pushes the economy and helps everybody to move faster. We had no knowledge of that.
Coming out of that communist upbringing, did you aspire for anything? Did you not know to aspire? Was there a point in aspiring? You come to America, the land of dreams and opportunity, but you came out of a communist upbringing.
So that's a really good point. In Cuba, or in any communist country, to be honest, there isn't a lot of room for upward mobility, unless obviously you work for the government. And then, there's plenty of that. But if you don't, you're not going anywhere. And it's not like you choose what school, at least in Cuba, that's what it was. Obviously I was young before I left, but I know this from family members and stuff. You don't choose where you're gonna go, what career. You're pretty much, at an early age, they tell you, this is what you're gonna do, and that's the path you're gonna take, whether you like it or not. And your only choice is to do it or not. So for us, we one of the things that was really, and one of the reasons I actually sometimes speak in public, it's really, I feel like, and I think what you were alluding to is, when we got to this country, for many years, our story is very long. We started our first bakery in 1975. We didn't open our second bakery till 2003, which is a long time. Nowadays, most people open a restaurant or whatever it is, and next year they're opening another one. And I look back and I say to myself, what the heck were you guys doing? We were not doing it. And I realized that coming from a communist country and seeing that culture, and then coming in the 1970s, where at that time there weren't as many immigrants as there are now. We were kind of, probably one of the few Hispanics, other than the Mexicans that have been here for a long time. But there weren't that many Cubans. And all of our Cuban friends, I remember my sisters and I, all of us actually went to Cal State LA. And when I graduated, all I dreamed for was just to get a job that I could buy a car, and even buying a house, I don't think was even something we contemplated. So I started working with my parents, and we got whatever. We didn't get a lot of money, but we made some money at that point. But for us, we just couldn't. What we had, what Porto's is today, I would say in the 1980s, I couldn't even imagine. For us, all we could think about is this country gave us the ability to open a little store, right? And if that store's going well, we've hit the jackpot, and we're doing great. We just could not fathom that. And we were talking about this, that I think it's really important, especially for minorities that come to this country. And one of the reasons I speak a lot, and I actually speak a lot to high schools and colleges, especially when it's the restaurant schools and things. And it's just to tell, they see me and they realize, okay, this guy's not that special. And look at what he got, we can do it too. And I think that's probably something that was missing in my life. All of our friends, they were either just working at a job, not a great job either, or they had a little business, a gas station. And we thought, my gosh, this guy opened a gas station. He's like, Rockefeller. And that was just our vision at that time. And it took a lot of years for us to, I see this gentleman, I think he's Cuban or an immigrant because he went to high school with me, he just told me that, or my sister. And, that's just the way we saw it. And there were no role models. There was nobody on TV that we could see. And I think it's really important for all the minorities, or anybody really, to go out and share your success and share your stories. And, when you guys get done and listening to me, you'll realize that our story really wasn't anything. We didn't invent anything. We didn't do anything extra special other than work really hard, try to please our customers each and every day to the most of our ability. And we went the extra mile always. And other than that, I can't really tell you we did anything special.
Well, don't sell yourself short.
Okay.
Right? So, you built something pretty great, but you're in your house, you're delivering in a station wagon, a cake here, a cake there, and then you make a decision, your family makes a decision, your mom made a decision that now it's time to open a bakery. What was that all about?
Okay, so my dad and my mom both were kind of entrepreneurs. So my dad was thinking of the gas station. And and my mom was just making kind of like in the background the cakes. She was like Rodney Dangerfield. She wasn't getting any respect at that time. And she was just making the cakes and she was going about it. But she was gaining this, huge popularity, but nobody could see it at that point. So my dad was actually trying to open a gas station, but because of lack of credit, he could never, he put in like 2 bids, him and another friend, to try to get one. And this process went on for like 2 years, and he just wasn't able to. And then at that same time, my mom's business is kind of picking up. So then she convinced my dad to help her open a small little shop. And we opened our first store in 1975 in a little strip mall. And it was a tiny store. I mean, it was 300 square feet. There were no employees, just my 2 sisters, myself. I was 15, my sisters were 16 and 13. And my dad would help. He had another job because somebody had it, and we needed insurance and we needed all of that. And my mom just, she would drop us off at school, come back to work, and then we would take the bus after school. It was on Sunset Boulevard, and we worked 7 days a week. The kids would come from school, go in and help however we could. I learned how to bake at maybe 16, 17. I was already getting pretty good just by, there were no manuals or training person. I would just go in and help somebody. Let's say I would help one of the bakers. And then one day the baker would say, hey, I'm leaving to another job, or I'm going back to my country, or whatever. And at that time, my mom would look at me and say, hey, do you remember what you were doing with him? And I would say, well, maybe 5 or 6 of the things. And she would say, okay, let's work on it together and we'll figure it out. And this process went on for maybe, 4 or 5 years. And by then, I'm getting out of high school. And at that point, I pretty much became the head baker. And then I would hire other people, other bakers. And by then, we're already a little bit bigger. And maybe I jumped too far ahead. So we opened the first bakery, and it was 300 square feet, just the family members were working. Very difficult. We were selling some days $20, $40. Again, we had no business background or knowledge. There was a lot of marketing at that time. We obviously couldn't afford, newspapers or radio ads or anything like that. So it was a very tough start. And the neighborhood started, in that area, it started getting a little difficult. And because it was only the kids and my mother and my 2 sisters working in the bakery, my dad and her were a little concerned that, that maybe it was in the right neighborhood. And somebody told us about a bakery that was for sale in Glendale. And we went by and we made a deal with the person, and we didn't have a lot of money. This was probably 78, so we've been running the little bakery for 3 years. But we got lucky. The person had closed the bakery and was desperate to get rid of it. So I think we gave him we bought it for $25,000. We gave him $5,000 down. And he financed it himself for 3 or 4 years. To this point, there's no banks. It's just cash and whatever we could, just with the capital that we got from the restaurant and with the bakery, we continued just to invest it. And we live very modestly, as you can imagine. And we were working all the time, so there was no vacations or anything. And so now we have 2 bakeries, one in LA, the original one in LA, and then we had the second one in Burbank, in Glendale, sorry. And my parents, again, had a difficult time managing 2 stores. The kids are still too small to be helping in a management role. We were just working. So they ended up closing the original store and just kept and focused all our energies on the second store, which is the largest store in Glendale.
How many square feet?
That one was maybe 2,500 square feet.
So how many people?
At that point, we probably had, you're talking 1980, we probably had maybe 8 people working at the bakery, so it still wasn't big. And by then, I'm out of high school, and my sisters too, and all 3 of us basically were working, it took me 5 years to get my bachelor's, and my sisters pretty much the same thing. And all of us would go to school 2 days out of the week, and the other 5 days we worked, and that was pretty much it. And school was our days off, basically. And we did that for a few years, and the bakery continued to grow. And by 1986, so 8 years later, we had outgrown that location. We moved across the street to a larger location. And it was funny, every time we moved, our business would just jump. I'm not sure if we had part of it must have been that we had this pin-up demand that we just couldn't fulfill the customers. Even then the lines were on the week not as bad as now. We had smaller lines. But people we have pent-up demand, and the other one is every year we were also there were more Hispanics coming into California, and there weren't any there were a few Cuban bakeries, but there weren't too many Hispanic bakeries. There might have been one Mexican, so we were kind of the only game in town, one of the few games in town. And so we started really picking up momentum like we hadn't before. So we moved to this new location in '86, and again, we just continue to evolve. Now by then, we're getting, we're growing into the role of a business person, and we're understanding better, especially myself and my dad, all of us really, so all to different extents, but I think we're all getting better at marketing, at displaying product, at hiring, at processing, manufacturing the food, making the pastries. And also, I really felt that at that time, there weren't a lot of Cubans in Southern California. So we knew that there might be 70,000, I think there was 100,000 at that time. And we dwindled quite a bit. The majority would either go back to Miami or marry off and go to another state or whatever. So there wasn't a lot of Cuban. It didn't take long for us to figure out that if we didn't start attracting other clients, that we pretty soon we'd be out of customers and we couldn't continue to grow. And so we started developing new items that still had a Cuban flair. We didn't want to get away from that, but we started making like mousse cakes. And mousse cake is more of a French product, but then we would just make it with mango. So instead of a chocolate mousse, we would make it with mango. And then we started making French bread. At the beginning, we made Cuban bread mostly or only, and then we started expanding our product line. We started marketing, and the power of marketing. We had across the street a Filipino newspaper. I think it was called World Times or something. I can't remember exactly. This is in 2003 or so, no, 93. And the gentleman loved to eat our food and didn't want to pay for it. So he would tell me, Raul, why don't we work out a deal? I'll put an ad in my newspaper. And up to that point, we had never invested in any advertising. We just didn't do it. We were going along our way, and we were growing as fast as we could control it and manage it. But it wasn't costing me hardly anything. He would come in, eat lunch every day almost, and then he'd put an ad. He'd bring folks along, and then he would put an ad for us. And it was interesting. Probably after the Cubans, and then obviously we also grew in the Hispanic community. So basically, it's an interesting story, because to this day, we have a huge, people ask me, why is that? And I think it had a lot to do with that advertising that we probably did for 10 years or so. It was a heck of a deal too for us in retrospect. We didn't, obviously I didn't know what we were doing, and I look back now and I realize it, but Filipinos, out of all the Asians, I read an ad once, or not an ad, a post. We put something on Instagram, and somebody said the best Filipino bakery. And I thought, oh my God, that's interesting. That's incredible. And I can tell you that when we look at our I'm not sure what it's called, but when we look at our social media, where people are logging in from, we get people logging in from other countries, which is kind of mind-boggling. And I would say the number one country is actually Philippines. We're actually thinking of trademarking our name in Philippines just to be safe.
So that first larger location,
Yes.
you shut down the small one,
Yes.
you opened up across the street, and then years go by, and you decide to open up another location.
Yes.
By this point, what are the big goods that you're selling? Because I'm assuming it's not what you're doing today.
No. So at this point, we're still, we keep expanding, but not to the level, the depth of products that we make now. But we had expanded from the original Cuban pastries, and we continue to expand. We would hire a French chef, a German, and we would get ideas from them and change them around. And so we continued to expand. And the business was continuing to expand. Then we moved again in 2003 into a much bigger location. And at that point, we really took off.
What's much bigger?
That one was 20,000 square feet. Yeah. It had a basement, which doesn't really count. We stored things there, but it was much bigger.
Similar to the setup you have now, bakery in the back,
Right.
sales in the front.
Right. And then we always sold, and for the business people, and you're gonna appreciate this, when we opened this location, we always sold sandwiches, but it was more like a deli. We made a Cuban sandwich and maybe ham and cheese croissant or something like that. And a few sodas, and it was nothing really serious. And then Starbucks, we noticed Starbucks was coming in and stuff. And we opened the place, we took over the building next to us. And we thought, we were looking at our numbers and we realized that our sales continued to grow, but the food and the drinks were not, they had stopped. And what we realized is that if somebody wants a sandwich and you had to wait in line 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes, not too many people are gonna come do that. And we thought, wow, why don't we do like a cafe? And so we opened the building next door, we did a cafe. And it was great, it was mind-boggling what happened. So what we did was we have been selling coffees, but we put together more like the menu, the coffee menu that we have now. And we have Davina, which I think, the set is here. It's another Cuban family. And they helped us to put together a coffee bar menu and work on that. And then we hired chefs and we started getting more and more into the food. So on opening day, we thought, okay, this will be interesting. And what happened was mind-boggling. Our food and beverage business went up 100% in one day. So we closed on a Sunday. We broke, we've been doing all the construction. I had a fake wall between the two buildings. So on Monday morning, we came in early, tore the wall down, opened it up, and coffee, and we knew that those two would go up because we gave it its own place. We expanded the menu, and again, there weren't too many coffee shops at that time other than Starbucks. And it was, the design, everything we did was really nice. So it was crazy. But it also had another impact which we didn't expect, it took our pastries up another 30%. At that point, we really had like what everybody now would call a concept. And we were doing really good. And it just continued to grow. But like we mentioned earlier, we still had one store. And I think it was only then, I would say probably 93, that we realized, okay, we're gonna have to grow more stores. And we started prepping for that. And we opened a commissary outside of the bakery because we realized that bakeries are very different than restaurants. And that I read once that bakeries are one of the few last businesses that manufacture and retail all in the same building. And it's true, you don't realize it, but to make a cheese roll, the process could be a 12-hour process, and the amount of space that you need to do it is just astronomical. So we needed a commissary to do the items that we do in huge volumes. And then also, part of our trick was that if we could make these, in a controlled environment, we could improve the quality, we could improve the efficiency. And one of the things that we started with when we first started the bakery, one of the things about our concept is that we were selling at the beginning primarily to Cuban immigrants. Now, most of these immigrants were educated people that left because of political reasons. So they had a good taste bud, and they knew what was good food, but they just didn't have the budget now. So for us, our challenge was to turn out great product at an incredible price. And to this day, that's something that I think has helped us, and we still strive for. And I think we probably have, as I look at the our Southern California marketplace, I think one of the reasons that we're so successful is because we spend a ton of money doing the build out of the stores. We try to build a beautiful store that any person that comes in can feel really good about, whether you live in an apartment or a $10 million home or whatever, and you still feel good about it. And we have great products, and all of these products we try to price them at a very low price. And I think that's something that was our beginning, and we have always strived for that, and that has really helped us a lot. So in 2003, we opened the commissary, and then in 2003 was the first bakery that we opened, and that's something that was my own project. And we opened it in Burbank, and that went really well from day one. It was very successful. But the challenge was that the second store, not only we thought would cannibalize the first store, and it didn't. It actually, more people started talking about us, more word of mouth, and it actually had the opposite effect on the original store. So the sales continued to go up, and we realized we got to open another one sooner than later. So we opened the Downey store, and that one was just a tremendous success from day one.
Are these all 20,000 square foot footprints? Are you leasing them? Are you building them, buying them?
Okay, so we actually, the store in Glendale we bought, that was the first one we bought, and it was a huge challenge because we didn't have a lot of money. So I mean, that's probably the first time that we had to go out to every bank that would loan us anything. And my dad at that time, he thought, we were talking about earlier, he thought he had reached, whatever he could have, he thought, okay, I'm set, and he had paid his house. And it took a lot of convincing for him to take a mortgage back out again on his house so that we could open that Glendale store. After that one, the sales were doing so well that, and we weren't spending a lot of money on our own. We were still living very modestly and putting everything back into the business. So when we opened the Burbank store, again, banks started playing a bigger role in this. And we started developing relationships with smaller banks. And we opened the Burbank store, we bought the building, we moved in there. The Downey store, we also bought that building. And then at that time, we actually got into developing. So we bought the whole block, which had an office tower and a little building. We knocked down the smaller building. We built a brand new bakery, a second level parking, retrofitted the office tower, and it worked out really well. I mean, the place was just, again, the great pastries and the great prices were driving all of this. And with each success, we had talked about how concerned we were at the beginning, and how we were just narrow-minded. We just couldn't visualize what was possible for us. By now, we're getting really, I'm not gonna say cocky because that's not in my nature, but real confident. So we started building bigger and ever building projects. And we did the Buena Park. Downey was around maybe 18,000 square feet. Buena Park is about 23. And in Buena Park, we bought the whole land and built a restaurant and a bakery in the lot. And that one was really good. And we really believe in just continuing to improve and doing everything better every day. And our designs in the build up of the bakeries are doing really good. But at that point, I thought we got to do something better. And we go to a lot of shows in Europe because most of our machines are made in Europe. And we noticed there was a company that is an architectural firm that does mostly bakeries and restaurants. And they were superb, so we had to talk with them. And this is the first time we used them, and we actually, all the build out, not the building, but the build out of the front of the house. So if you're a customer, everything you see in Buena Park was actually designed and built in Milan, Italy, and then shipped over. And we thought, wow, this looks, and everybody outside could see that, nobody knew where it came from, but everybody knew that it was different and special. So then when we did the West Covina store, we went even grander, did a really nice build out, used the Italian team again, and it wasn't too much more expensive, a little bit, but not a lot. But the results were amazing. And all this time, so now, just fast forward, we have 5 stores, and 6th one's gonna open any day now, maybe weeks away, and it's in Northridge. And this one we couldn't buy, we just couldn't afford the whole mall, it was too big. So we couldn't buy it. We tried, but we just couldn't do it. And we asked them to see if they could carve it out, as you can imagine. They told us to go flying kites. But we went ahead and leased it anyways. And so we're about to open that one. It's really nice. That one's in the city of Northridge. And it's we couldn't make it any bigger. That was like 17,000 square feet. Something we also did 2 years ago, we started a thing called Bake at Home.
Wait. Let's back up for a second. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, when does Bake at Home hit?
it actually started. So, okay, but it did start before COVID. So obviously, as all of us, nobody, or at least all of us, hopefully, knew that something like that was going to happen, like COVID. So basically, I just thought it was a great idea, and I envy everybody that was doing all these online business and whatever. So we thought, and it all started because my son was actually living in, it was my older son, he was living in Napa, and he came for Christmas, and at work, he worked in a restaurant, they only gave him 2 days off, and all his friends were coming over, and the bakery was closed on the 25th. So I bought some of the products that were left over but hadn't been baked in the refrigerator. And I baked them, and they were like, oh my gosh, Mr. Porto, this is amazing, it's so good. And I thought, darn, maybe we got something here. And one of the kids at the event actually graduated with my older school, had just graduated from USC. And he came to me and he said, hey, I took entrepreneurship, why don't I help you to grow this? So we said, okay, let's do it. So we did a presentation, we liked it, and we started something that we call Bake at Home. And what it is the same products, the same iconic products that we sell at the bakery, we basically sell them frozen. We put them in refrigerated containers, and we sell them all over the world, in the United States, sorry, I wish. All over the United States. And people order them online, we send them out. And then you bake them at home, you keep them in the freezer, and they have a shelf life of about a month and a half to 2 months. And then basically you bake them, and they taste amazing. And actually the the house smells great. So from that, we started doing that, and we were doing okay.
What's okay?
I mean, I think, the sales were like $1.5 million or something. It was just
Per what?
per year. So it wasn't great, but we thought, okay, it's a small business. We know that, that experience. But this time now, with all the experience, I'm thinking, no way are we going to allow this to take another 30, 40 years for this to grow. We need to get this going really fast. So, COVID hits, and, so I was telling you, it was actually probably one of the most, for me, I never felt stressed at work until COVID hit. And then it was really bad. And I would say, for me personally, not only because of the loss of business and all that, I don't think that had that much of an impact. We were successful enough that even though we lost, at the worst, almost 50% of our sales, we weren't barely breaking even. But, we had enough resources, and we had enough money in the bank that we could go at it. And we could continue.
I want everyone to appreciate, put this in perspective. When you say 50% of your sales, and we're not going to put a number on it, how many potato balls do you sell a year?
I have to think of how many we make. Maybe 8 million potato balls, but almost 26 million cheese rolls. Just crazy. And it's mind-boggling. How many people here have never had a potato bar or cheese roll? Raise your hands.
Gotta have.
I guess we still have some business to do.
Yeah, once they have one, it exponentially grows from there.
So basically, we went through what every restaurant had to go through, which is horrible. And like I said, the toughest part for me was now finding myself where I'm responsible. I take my responsibilities very seriously. And now I'm responsible for not only my employees, but sort of their family members' health. So it was really tough.
How many employees did you have at this point?
So when we
as
started,
COVID hits?
So COVID hits, we're at 1,500 and change. And we had at least 500 employees. We held on to them for almost a month and a half, thinking, okay, this is going to be short term. We'll be back in business. And we were losing, bleeding like crazy.
You told me a while ago, this isn't the first time Raul and I have talked. And we've known each other for quite a while. During COVID, you have a young employee base overall.
Yes.
And that young employee base loves to go out at night and have a lot of friends. And you actually had to close down for a little bit. What happened?
Yeah, that was a horrible experience. So what happened was we have a young employee base. By now we've released, again, maybe a third of our employee we were lucky enough that we basically, we said, okay, let's try to just release the ones that are part-timers. And what we did was we released everybody that had been with us for a year or less and kept everybody else. And then, because we closed to customers, we took the ones that had been with us for a long time. Some of them didn't speak English that well or couldn't communicate well. So we actually put them to like deliver the bakeries, to walk the bags to people's cars or whatever. And then from a business perspective, we thought this is the core of our production, our bakers. So we didn't really release any bakers. Most of the people we released were front of the house, college and high school kids, which, was sad, especially we've never had a layoff in our lives. So, it was a sad experience. But getting back to the Downing story. So these employees go out and they go partying on a Friday night, I think it was. And one of them starts feeling sick on Friday. But he doesn't call us, he waits till Monday or Tuesday. No, actually, he never calls us. On Monday, he's off on Monday, so he doesn't call us. Then one of the employees that had gone to the party says, hey, you guys know that a bunch of us went, and so-and-so, Joe, thinks he has COVID. And we're like, oh my gosh. And we realized we had a problem because these employees have been working for 2 or 3 days. And I think it was actually Tuesday by the time we found out. And we're thinking, oh my gosh, and this is early on.
It was very early.
Very early on. So we didn't know what to do. And then basically, we weren't getting the kids that went to the party. Another one goes out, and now it's Wednesday, and we're thinking, okay, what do we do? Do we wait? We're consulting with health department, with other people, and then, at that point, health department didn't know what to do either, and they didn't know very well. Nobody knew, and there were no rules or regulations that you had to close. They couldn't even force you. They don't have the authority to do that at that point. I don't even think they do now. So basically, we didn't know what to do. By the time we got the third employee, we were really scared out. So we basically just shut the whole bakery down for 4 days or so, or 5 days, and then sent everybody home. Told them to go out and test. At that time, there was very few tests inside. So we sent everybody to test. And again, it was really tough. We had to go out in the media and say it, that we had closed. And one of the things about us is that we're really not, in the scope of things, we're not a huge business, from a sales perspective compared to, many other businesses that we don't even know about and sell millions and billions of dollars, right? So we're still a small family business, but we're a very public business. And that's something that we're well aware of. So the minute that we closed, it was every newspaper. Anybody I meet on the street would say, oh, I'm so sorry you closed. Even 6 months later, are you still closing down? I'm like, oh my God.
Did you take PPP funds?
No.
Why?
Because most people see us as a very successful restaurant. And again, like I mentioned, we really watch our reputation. It's something we built over 45 years. And we not only is it in our nature to treat everybody super fairly and do things right, but also, we're very public. So when PPP first came out, the first time that it came out, at the beginning stages, we were still doing fairly well. We weren't making any much money, but we were almost breaking even. But then we didn't realize that months later we were going to be in a world of hurt. And 2 of the stores were actually losing money, but a few of them, the Orange County one, was still doing fairly well. So we decided, even though we could have used it, but we decided not to take any PPP money, just because a few restaurants, especially the successful ones, were being shamed in a way, and many of them found themselves in a really, difficult and uncomfortable situation, and then had I think, what was that? French Laundry, one of the famous restaurants in Napa, took money early on right away, and they probably needed to. But yeah, they were shamed, regardless of whether they needed or not. It didn't matter. And I just didn't want to put myself in that position. So we didn't. Now, on round 2, we were struggling. 2 of the stores were still struggling. So we did do it on 2 of the stores. The other ones were doing okay. To be honest with you, we probably could have taken it on all of them. Actually, to be honest, we didn't know whether to do it or not. And the bank that was helping us was trying to convince us to take it on all of them. If we follow the regulations, we could have applied. But we thought, we're not bleeding money, we're doing okay, we're getting by, let somebody else that is in more need take it. But we did take it on 2 of the stores one time.
So there's a word we all learned, and it's so overused, and I'm so tired of it, but everyone did it, which was pivot. You massively pivoted during COVID. Now, you said $1.5 million in sales on Bake at Home.
Right.
What did that evolve into
Okay,
during COVID?
so imagine COVID hits, we're still doing the Bake at Home, but again, that was something we weren't even thinking about. And maybe a few weeks or months went on, and then in I think it was mid-March, basically everything shut down, right? And then the Bake at Home sales, so just keep this in mind, all of 19, we did $1.5 million, all of 19, for a full year.
For Bake at sales.
Bake at Home
Bake at
sales. And then the shutdown starts, and we jumped to $3 million in that month. So I think it's 3,000% or something like that. She's just incredible. I mean, we're doing 100,000 a month figure, and all of a sudden we go to 3 million. As you can imagine, we got Bake at Home. I mean, we got all the issues of COVID, but now we got another issue, which is we're just going nuts at this other store. So basically that took, a lot of work. We had to bring in people. We couldn't get the ice chest boxes made in California. There wasn't enough supply.
Where'd you get it?
So I actually had them shipped from Texas, and some as far out as Chicago, which had plants, and we shipped them in. It was just chaos. And we actually, even if you look at our Facebook, our rating, and Bake at Home, those weeks or months, we took a really bad beating, because as you can imagine, how do you scale that quickly overnight? It's really tough. And customers don't understand that, and they shouldn't have to. But it was just really difficult. But it took us about 3 months to get it going, and people were placing orders, and we were sending them out maybe a week after they had ordered them. I mean, it was just a mess, and we had to basically, refund a bunch of people. It was a real challenge, but it really helped us tremendously, because we've actually been able to keep the majority of those sales, almost 90%, 95% of those sales. We've kept after, we started opening last year and this year, and we're still doing good. And I just looked at 2021, and something like 56% of the Bake at Home sales are outside of California, which is pretty cool. And I look at the reviews myself a lot of times, and it's mostly people who love their pastries, whatever nationality they are. They love their pastries. They, in today's world, people are moving around like crazy. So they move to Tennessee or something like that, and they're just ordering them, and it works out really well for us on that side.
So I'm picturing you're going all the way back to when your mom is baking in the house and delivering in a station wagon. Now you've got 1,500 employees and a digital social department.
Yes.
Inside of Porto's.
Yes.
How did
Big team too.
How did that evolve?
So right now, I think we have 3 for customer service, because people order online, and then if FedEx is late, whatever. I mean, I guess these pastries are really important. If they're late just a couple of hours, they're emailing us or calling us. Where are my pastries? You sent me here today. So we need to coordinate that, and so we needed to build like a customer service team, and then marketing is something we never knew how to do, especially online sales. We had to really learn that part of the business, And the young kid that started with us is still with us, and he oversees the marketing primarily. And of course, we use third-party, people that specialize on social media marketing and things like that. But we've done really good with it. I think we can continue to evolve that. We're in talks to open another bakery in Orange County, actually, which we like a lot. And then I'm not sure what we're going to do from there.
Before you expanded the store next door where it used to be the work
Yes.
room, I had met your father and we had a meeting about him actually selling the business. I did small business investments and he said, no, I'm not ready, nothing's going to happen. And I'm just so glad he never did. Because it was screwed. But my question to you is, what's some advice that you have for somebody that's working with family in a business or trying to grow a business with family?
I would say the hardest, if the business, whatever product or service they're doing, they're good at it, then the rest is just, teaching them how to be better business people, how to grow their business. And, it's something we were talking about earlier, that how important for small businesses, whether it's a bank, so I applaud you for what you're doing here today, or whatever it is, especially real small businesses. They have no clue. A lot of times they can even get in trouble because they're not following certain rules that are pretty, that are well known to everybody, but, they can make it great, whatever. They just don't know the rules. So I think educating them, helping them to see a different perspective, just helping them, to run a better business. I think whether, if I was, I was in a bank before that. I was in a Porto bank, small bank in Glendale. And that was one of the things that I wanted to push like crazy. And to be honest with you, I really did a great job with it, which was kind of a bummer. But I really thought that was so important, because what better way to give back, and not only give back, but but also help ourselves. And if these businesses all grow, our business will continue to grow too.
So one of the interesting challenges for a business with a family-owned business, and a lot of you know Ed Hart, who joined Genesis recently, and he ran the Center for Family Business at Cal State Fullerton for 10 of its 25 years of existence, and then joined us just recently in launching the Genesis Bank Institute for Entrepreneurship. Is that a lot of small businesses, they've got a great idea, a family-owned business, they've got a great idea, they're great at bringing that idea to market, but then there are a lot of other things you actually have to do in order to run a business and succeed in the business. Do I in-house HR? Do I outsource HR? Because all of a sudden I've got employees. How do I form an LLC or an S corp or a C corp? How do I handle liability insurance? All of a sudden a company starts to grow up, a business grows up, and we're making sure that we bring to the table all those professionals that provide that consultative ideation that a business may need.
It can't be all family.
It can be all family, but the problem is a lot of families don't have all those skill sets across the entire company.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to thank Raul for, it's more than a business that he's built. And he's really built something cultural for our community. And Raul and your family, you love community. You came from Cuba to here and built a large family-owned business and give back and care. And this is an example of it today. There are a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners and family-owned businesess and minority-owned businesses. And here's an example of somebody who came from nothing and made something phenomenal, in our community. And I think that's a great example for all of us. All right, thank you, everybody. I'd also like to give a gift to Raul, as this is our first When Genesis Talks moment. We're going to be doing these quite often, and I want to thank Raul as the inaugural member of the Business Leadership Circle, sponsored by Genesis Bank. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank you all for being here today, for listening to our story. Hopefully you learned something, you had a good time, and it's got to be better than watching the news, right? All right, thank you all.
Thank you.